Hi, everyone. I am Mark McCarron, Wescott's Chief Investment Officer, and welcome to our latest webinar series. And this time we're talking about artificial intelligence. It's a topic everyone's talking about, it seems, headline news. And the title of our presentation today, Verify That You're Human, Ask Me Anything, is what you might find if you go and try one of these new chat boxes or Chat GPT and some of the other things that we're going to be talking about today. A little unnerving, the robot is asking us to verify that we are human before we can ask it a question. But it's a very interesting topic, and it seems to pique the interest of investors and others alike. I'm joined today by Grant Rawdin, Wescott's founder and CEO, and we're going to talk a lot about the history, evolution, and what it means for you as clients. So, welcome, Grant.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to be part of this webinar series and here today to talk about what is something that's very important to all aspects of what it is that we do. In fact, the impacts it's going to have worldwide in so many different areas. Setting context for our conversation, first we're going to talk about the history of artificial intelligence and remind you of some things you will certainly remember. We're going to talk about its impact on businesses and on the economy. We'll talk about some use cases so we can understand more specifically about where we're going to see artificial intelligence showing up. And of course, we're going to spend time talking about the investment case and how we see the early parts of the artificial intelligence mania playing out, particularly this year, but also where we would expect to see gains in the future. Probably the best way to start this is to go to a timeline, which will show us how artificial intelligence kind of came into being. There was the Turing test, the argument that machines could have human-like intelligence that was first pondered in 1950. It was in 1955 that the term artificial intelligence was actually coined. And then we got a chatbot in 1964 that could have a conversation with humans, that actual seemingly interaction that took place at MIT. Throw in for a good measure and fond memories in 1987 when Wescott was founded, we had as part of our first financial planning software an artificial intelligence enabled software which helped to suggest different alternatives in a client situation. It was very nascent at the time, and we stopped using it as we relied more on the real intelligence that I think we had in our house. Then things picked up. 1987, there was Deep Blue. That was IBM creating a chess playing computer. 6 years in the development to match to face off against Garry Kasparov, who was then the reigning world chess champion. IBM Deep Blue beat Kasparov in two games. Kasparov won one game and they had a draw in 3 of the games. So under those rules, the Deep Blue won, and that was pretty phenomenal. At the time, it caught everybody's attention and talked about the power of computing as we move forward. Move forward to 2011, and there were a couple of things there that came into public consciousness. One was the pragmatic use of Siri in the Apple environment, particularly on the iPhone, and Siri was providing and was smart, as it were. The other was the unveiling of Watson. Watson was used in many different ways, but it came to view as part of Jeopardy, the game show Jeopardy. That Jeopardy faced off against the 2 reigning champions, and it needed 10 racks of computer servers for it to crunch all of the tricky clues that Jeopardy tends to provide us its questions, but it did so and then was able to draw upon its database, and it beat handily the reigning champions. And everybody saw what the capability was of what was truly artificial intelligence. And then we come to 2022, where Chat GPT was released by OpenAI, and that provided an opportunity for people to interact with it, to ask it questions, and for it to be the beginning of it being incorporated into a lot of other uses. Uh, so that's a bit of the history of it, and it takes us back to the question of, where do we go next? Well, this current AI mania was boosted by the Chat GPT, and the question is, will it be able to continue to train itself, create its own rules? How far will it go? And I hasten to add that, as you may know, that there are many scientists and business leaders who've decided or who are cautioning that the man's wisdom is probably being outstripped right now by the science of enabling this artificial intelligence and some of the decisions and capabilities that it may go to. So, will AI also will it drive productivity, or will it create massive unemployment as artificial intelligence takes over the duties of many of the jobs, much as, for example, robotics did? What are the policy initiatives related to AI? How will Congress and others work on legislation to both contain or constrain or understand how it is that we should see AI develop in our society and in our business? And what are the risks of unchecked use of AI? That's, again, probably the most concerning in the parade of horribles of what can happen with artificial intelligence. And that is also the subject of great debate, and I'm sure some regulation as we move forward. So, with that, I think we'll turn it over to Mark. Mark, if you can talk to us about the use cases for artificial intelligence, and then that'll get us into examining more deeply the investment cases that we have.
Yeah, thank you, Grant. And clearly, it's an exciting time, and clearly, technology is advancing. And when you highlighted in that timeline where OpenAI is, which is really the idea that it represents the most advanced form of AI, and what we're talking about here is generative AI. And what that means is that they can train themselves. So the idea is that it accesses a large database and can train itself to learn more and more. And that's the nuance. That's the difference between this version of AI and, say, Watson, Deep Blue, and others that you talked about. Um, Not only is text a part of the advancement, but you can ask Chat GPT or actually other generative AI models, not Chat GPT specifically, to turn text into images, images into songs, or videos into text. So quite amazing. And you can just imagine the use cases of this new technology. On the right hand side of the slide, we show an image of what looks like a Tesla's dashboard. And you can see how Tesla's integrated AI into what they do to help effectively drive the car as a human would, with that intelligence, perhaps more or less, depending on your opinion of that. But the idea of bringing information into the car so that it drives itself is effectively AI. But you can see other use cases, marketing, generating new ad campaigns with the technology. And the automotive world, as we just talked about, creating 3D worlds and models to make better cars. In the healthcare industry, we're seeing generative AI help work through a number of different scenarios very quickly to help in drug discovery. The entertainment world, we're already seeing evidence of this in the entertainment world, where AI versions of actors today versus history are sort of combined together to create a new, seemingly realistic interpretation of that. So, and that's new content created that's never been done before, but done primarily through artificial intelligence. And so we're even seeing it in our industry, wealth management industry, and we're gonna talk about an example later about how that is impacting what we do and how we do it. And while it's moving fast, it's not quite there yet. So the challenges of implementing AI is that you need a lot of computing power to do it, and it's very expensive. So not everyone can access it. There's also lack of high quality data. Well, I can imagine you can sort of send the AI out there into the world of the internet. There's a lot of stuff out there that's not quite good quality, and it'll return bad quality unless that data is good. And therefore, the data licenses, those who have the data can charge a lot for that license to access that data. So there's going to be a changing landscape here, I think, in the world of technology, data, and how it's controlled. And that goes back to the policy question that Grant brought up, and also the unchecked use of it. It really does have to be checked and controlled with good quality data. So those we see are the big picture, but the excitement in the market is pretty obvious. So when you look at the market this year, this is year-to-date performance of a couple of the different indexes, and we'll talk through those in a minute. But we're calling this AI mania, but AI mania seems like it is. It's driving the US market higher this year. And it's driven by very big companies, big technology companies like NVIDIA, Meta, which is Facebook, and Google, which are seemingly the winners of this new technology. They have the data, they have the technological know how. And the market is higher because those companies are driving the market higher as investors are putting their bet behind this new technology. This coming because, despite the fact that there's higher interest rates, that hasn't gone away. Inflation's still with us. Regional bank failures were just the news of the last couple of months, and the debt ceiling debate is still while it's over for the moment, it's not over for good. So generative AI models are what's driving the market higher, and they require a lot of computing power. For anyone who wants to use these systems, you need to put a lot of and provide this capability. You need a lot of computing power. So NVIDIA is the name that people might have heard about. They're a computer hardware company, estimated 80% of the AI chip market today. Demand for their product is huge. And you can see on this chart, we're showing everything from the broad market, which is the S&P 500. That looks like a small return, but it's about a 15 or 16% return so far this year. Invesco QQQ, which is technology-enabled index, really is sort of driven by that. That's up almost 40%, but it's NVIDIA that's up almost 200%. That's what's driving it. That's sort of an indication of the mania that we're seeing in the market today. So really interesting evolution. Chat GPT is the new thing. The excitement is real in the marketplace. And we're seeing that evidenced in the market. And we are, by the way, investing in these markets. We're investing in these companies, and you have exposure to these companies in your portfolio. But it's really interesting to see how quickly and how fast the market sentiment did change from a year ago, which is pretty pessimistic, to this year, which may be a little bit overly optimistic. And I'll end with this before we talk about what the future might hold. But NVIDIA, while it's up a lot, it's also trading at a very high multiple to earnings, 225 times earnings, which is not usual. That's a high expectation stock, and a lot of expectations again are built into its price today. So we're watching that carefully, and we're balancing our portfolios to have some exposure to this, but not overly exposed to that potential valuation. So that's really where I see the markets going this year and the driving force. But it's easy to look backward. So I turn it really over to you, Grant, and to ask, so where do you see, what do you see in the future? What does the future look like to you in general and also with wealth management?
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be considered in terms of how artificial intelligence will be used in our business, as well as in other businesses. I think for us, we, as I mentioned it earlier, that we had used artificial intelligence early on in our planning software that was really not overly effective. I think today we see the abilities and of including it to be more helpful to our clients. Uh, I think for those who think that they can go to artificial intelligence directly, Chat GPT, and have some of their issues solved, we ran a demonstration which queried Chat GPT for, just as an example, a financial planning question, whether whether it- gifting to children should be done as part of estate planning. It gave us some very generic information back. It certainly could not opine on a particular situation, family situation, other things that would be part of the important things in consideration for giving uh, uh, good advice, good solid advice to clients. And it concluded, of course, with saying you should consult with your financial advisor. So that's one of those examples where we think we'll be able to harness it to be doing our job even more effectively, but won't be supplanted. Mark, in terms of portfolio management, do you see some of those opportunities going forward?
Yeah, we see this, see the same thing on the investment side of things too. It won't supplant advice or implementation, or it won't give you the stock to buy that will outperform the market, of course. It could, in fact, make the market more efficient. The financial markets live on information and data. And if you can access that data, do analytics more effectively, it could lead to more efficient markets, better analysis, and better portfolio management. So we are seeing some of the investment management world employ more use of artificial intelligence. And we're going to keep a close eye on that. And just to note from a compliance standpoint, that will require anyone using artificial intelligence to support them in their investment management process will have to disclose that. So very important nuance, very important information. I think the future is very interesting from here, and we'll be very, very focused on how we could harness its power, but also how the markets and the industries that we talked about are harnessing its power as well. So, with that, we thank you very much for joining us for today's call and talk on artificial intelligence. We thank you very much for your attention, your confidence and trust in us. Of course, if there are any questions that you might have, don't hesitate to reach out to Grant, myself, or your advisor. Thank you.